Welcome to episode 70 of the Character Unlock podcast. I am hosting again this week. Your ears do not deceive you, and you haven't skipped forward a month. It is most certainly me hosting, as I wasn't supposed to be, but instead of John this week, I've dragged on my good mate, Matt. Matt, how are you, mate? It's been a while.
Good evening, Mr. Brookett. Thank you for having me on again, and yeah, I'm doing well. How are you?
I am good. I'm thankful and grateful for you to come and keep John's seat warm for him.
Always a pleasure. I'm more than happy to keep the seat ticking over until his triumphant return. But why don't I get to host if it's John's turn? Surely I should have done it.
Well, you're more than welcome to host if you want to, mate.
No, you go. You've got the structure in place.
I don't, mate. Structure is one thing we don't really have, like, at all. When we started doing this, it was great because we followed the old fail critics thing. So it was news, it was reviews, and it was if we had a feature. Now we just kind of, if there's news, we talk about it, or we just chat shit for 20 minutes just to fill the space, and then moan that we talked for too long. That's basically our structure.
But it's been working for so long. Why change it?
Exactly. And this week, as has become tradition, it's our PrE3 episode. So I'm almost certain we're going to chat for far too long this week, or maybe not enough as we go, we don't care, and move on. But
I don't know. I've got a few things to say about E3 and surrounding topics. So
cool.
I'm sure we won't completely breeze through it.
No, I'm sure we won't. But I tell you what, then. So we'll there's a couple of little before we get to kind of E3 stuff, and towards the end we'll kind of roll into E3 stuff as well. But there's a couple of like bits of news I suppose worth talking about. And the big one, mate, last week we got a new Call of Duty announcement.
We certainly did.
Now I know you're a big Call of Duty fan.
You just outed me now, haven't you?
I have a little bit. Well, you're probably, as the years have gone on, you're probably the biggest Call of Duty fan I know that's left as still a Call of Duty fan.
That's a weird tag to be called a Call of Duty fan, because it makes me sound like I would support the series no matter what happens, which certainly isn't the case. But I've probably put more hours of gaming year on year into Call of Duty than most other games in the last 10 years, put it that way. Some of which are very positive, and more recently perhaps not so positive. But when a new Call of Duty is announced, you can't ignore it, and you sort of have to try and soak it all in and see what side of the divide you're at after seeing a reveal trailer such as the one that we got on the last week. And I would say that the general reaction to it has been extremely positive, whereas the last 3 or 4 have been very lukewarm to absolutely disastrous, depending on which one we're referring to. Infinite Warfare. But no, everything seems it's coming up Millhouse for Activision this time.
It really is. So I judge Call of Duty, especially reveal trailers, like you say. I judge Call of Duty reveal trailers on how excited it gets me, because I struggle to get excited for a Call of Duty game nowadays, and have done for the last few years.
Why is that?
Okay, so the big part of Call of Duty, as everyone knows, it's the multiplayer, and that's not the thing that drags me in. I play the multiplayer for about an hour every year, hate my time with it, and never touch it again. I like playing the campaigns. I really enjoy them. It's a bit like how I can sit there and watch some of the biggest and best Oscar-winning films that have ever been made. Sometimes, man, you just need a fucking Michael Bay movie. Yeah, you know. Yeah. Sometimes you just need a bit of a palate cleanser. And with Call of Duty, it's a 4 to 6 hour, corridored shoot 'em up fest, and sometimes that's all you need. And 99% of the time, that's exactly what I get with Call of Duty. But as the years have gone on, I found it harder and harder to get to get excited for them. I always play them, but I don't get excited for them until they get much closer to them coming out. And I couldn't tell you what specifically puts me off. I think Black Ops 4 is the first one that I didn't get really excited for, and that's not even because it was only online. It's because I hated the Black Ops 3 campaign so much that it came close to being the first Call of Duty that I just didn't bother finishing. Which, considering it only takes 5 hours to finish, is a pretty shitty thing to say.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from, and there's definitely a favouring towards online gameplay now in Call of Duty because of the industry's leaning towards microtransactions, which
Yeah.
difficult to implement into a single player game, right? So the focal point on the game as an annual event is eventually getting everyone online and hopefully spending on DLC, microtransactions, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a given that Black Ops 4 was dead as a dodo for you on arrival. It had nothing for you whatsoever.
No, it didn't. And to be fair, Call of Duty can do what it likes. It is and still is. It obviously doesn't make the money it used to, but it does still make a killing for Activision every year. They can do what they like with it, you know. And I'll never say, well, what a piece of shit. I just won't play it. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's perfectly acceptable if I just don't play a game. Do you know what I mean? If it's not for me, that's fine. Not every game is. And you can't really knock Call of Duty for going in the direction of online because, 8 years ago, it all but revolutionised online play.
Yeah, but it was perfectly balanced. It had the best single-player first-person shooter action on the market,
Yes,
and it was also revolutionary, particularly on consoles,
Yeah.
because prior to the original Modern Warfare coming out, we didn't have a truly great online first-person shooter experience
No.
on any franchise that was out there. But Modern Warfare delivered on both fronts, and that's why it set up the whole franchise to be this unstoppable force and make so much money every year, this pop culture icon that it is. But now it's slowly gotten away from its roots. It's leaning more towards online, and it's implementing shitty habits that have put people off the series. And of course, it has enormous competition now from battle royale games such as PUBG, such as Fortnite, and Apex Legends, of course. So it has to change to remain relevant because it's not in the same ballpark as it was even 5 years ago, never mind 10 years ago. Arguably, this series sort of peaked at around the time of Call of Duty Ghosts and then perhaps Black Ops 2. And since then, it's been on a downward trend year on year. So they've played it very safe and gone back to the most bulletproof of the series in regards to what criticism can be fired at it. And it's boots on the ground. It's no futuristic shit. It's stuff that built the series from the ground up. So it's not a surprise that there was so little criticism to it. I'm just wondering why they're going in certain directions with this. It's not a shock that they went back to Modern Warfare. It's a little bit strange that it's not a numbered sequel. And
I was going to ask, what do you think to it not being Modern Warfare 4? Because they're basically soft rebooting it, aren't they?
Yeah, so it's going to be a reboot, and I guess when you consider the events of what happened in the storyline of Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3, there's not much room left for escalation from there. It's like, how do we make it bigger than we've already done?
Yeah.
With things that have happened. We've had nuclear warfare. We've had the United States suffering a land invasion. It's hard to go beyond that. So I kind of get why, for the sake of plot, they've had to sort of rejig things and go back to where it all started and go on a different tangent, perhaps. There's just little things that I'm curious about the trailer as to why is it a sort of focus on this sort of white light rather than the green light that was very much iconic with Modern Warfare 1 and 3.
Yeah.
Perhaps not so much in 2, but there was a definite brand staple there that they've clearly moved away from, and I'm curious as to how that will play out where we see more of the game. Perhaps during E3, hopefully. I would really like to see more of it. And
everybody's looking forward to the little bit that comes up saying skipped ahead for time. Come on. Every year at the Microsoft event, they had, for the sake of time, and they'd skip forward a bit. I miss that.
Yeah, that could definitely come in handy here, couldn't it?
Yeah.
There's going to be more as far as... we haven't seen anything as far as online play is concerned, but from various YouTubers who I follow who have been to a behind-the-scenes event and have sampled what the multiplayer has to offer. It sounds like there's going to be more of a tactical play, sort of breach and entry style, such as Rainbow Six Siege. So they're sort of
Okay.
taking a leaf out of the emerging popularity of that game. But of course, it's Call of Duty, so it's got to be balanced out with some good run and gun and zany action that we're used to. But the fact that they've come out of the gates very strongly and said there's going to be no paid DLC, and I think that's good because we've suffered a heavy division of the player base in the last few years, whereby after the first couple of months, a lot of the player base falls away. And
Yeah.
if you've paid for DLC, map packs, and that kind of stuff, you're basically shoved into a playlist with a bunch of hardcore players. So if you're not shit hot at multiplayer, you're going to be in for a world of hurt because
Yeah.
you're just playing against the best constantly over and over, the sweaty tryhards, etc. So now everyone's going to be with the same map, so the playlist will remain bigger. They're going to have cross-play, which, as I understand, is between console to PC, but not console to console. That's the understanding I've got so far. So we're not necessarily going to have Xbox and PS4 people playing against each other, but Xbox and PC and PS4 can play together. So it's a good step in the right direction, but it's still not on the same level as Fortnite or as far as keeping a super populated player base is concerned, which is a little bit disappointing.
Yeah.
But I'm most curious about the new engine, Brooker, if I'm honest with you, because it looks amazing as far as the trailer's concerned.
Doesn't it just? So
But
the trailer was shown. Let me get this right. It was live, well not live, but in-game rendering on a PS4 Pro.
yes,
And it looks spectacular. It
it does look
looks.
spectacular. But I'm concerned that once you get into scenes whereby there's a lot of on-screen action, and particularly in multiplayer, that can't be sustained at 60 frames per second, which is essential for that classic Call of Duty gameplay
Yeah.
that we're all used to. I won't tolerate a Call of Duty game that runs below 60 frames per second in multiplayer. That's
I don't
just
think you're alone there either.
so. I know that they've actually come out today, I think, and announced that they have a partnership with Nvidia to implement ray tracing technology on the PC version,
Yeah.
which is great. Certainly an underrepresented area, Call of Duty on PC. But I'm just concerned that this is a placeholder as far as this generation is concerned, and that this game isn't going to be fully enjoyable and perform at its best until the new generation of consoles come out. I don't know if you remember when we first kicked into the current generation that we're on, but Call of Duty Ghost was the sort of bridge game
Yes,
between
I
the last
I remember
generation
it well.
and this generation. And it wasn't great on Xbox 360
No.
and PS3. You really needed to have an Xbox One or PS4 to really enjoy that game as it was designed to be. And I think we're going to have the same issue with this. Hopefully, I'm wrong. I would love it if it runs really well on my Xbox One X.
Yeah.
I'm just going to reserve my expectation ever so slightly on that. And I'm kind of expecting it not to be at its best until the next generation of consoles are ready to run it. But I guess we'll find out more about that at E3.
Yeah. So I mean, the so would the ideal reveal on Monday, this Monday coming, the ideal reveal on Monday, so Microsoft show you a new console and then show you new COD running on it?
You've just sorted out everything I want from E3.
Fair enough.
Pretty much there. Yeah, I mean, I think they have to. We're all fully aware that these new consoles are around the corner, and whilst we're still wanting to buy and play games on our existing machines, we need to know what are the first sort of run of games we're going to want to play on our new consoles
Yeah.
as and when we get them. And it goes without saying that Call of Duty is something that everyone wants to see and how it runs on the next generation.
Yeah.
And not just on PC, because they bridge generations anyway, and the new graphics technology sort of bring it up to date always. But yeah, we need to see what it's going to run like on the current gen and the next gen, and people can decide which side of that coin they want to land on, I think.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I have to admit, like I said earlier, I don't get. I find it hard to get excited for Call of Duty. I couldn't help but squeal and wee a little bit when I watched that reveal trailer.
I think there's a few hints in that trailer about something big that might happen in the plot there because it's Captain Price and he's running off lines about we have to get dirty so the world stays clean.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they're
Do you reckon
doing
he
some.
goes a little rogue?
Yeah, he has to go rogue in order to keep the peace, so he becomes the bad guy almost, or an anti-hero of sorts, and he has to rely upon his buddies from previous games, such as Soap and
Yeah.
whatever. And I don't think it's going to be a straight up we're the good guys, you're the bad guys.
No.
I think you're probably going to end up playing both sides of the argument as the game progresses, and you're going to see these characters that we know and love doing some shit that we wouldn't have expected from them.
So the last question for me then, and that's just because the inner teenage emo in me needs to know if I'm going to be able to do it. Do we get Gaz or Ghost? Because mate, Ghost is one of my favourite characters ever, and it is in no small part because he runs around with a fucking skull balaclava on. But I love Gaz, and I would love to see Gaz back.
I wonder if it's going to be like a kind of Call of Duty All Stars. You're going to see many characters brought in from the various franchises that run in that timeline, at least anyway.
Yeah.
And we'll get a bit of everything. I think that would be cool.
But Keith David, what you reckon?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Let's have it.
So, moving on, and I'm so glad you've come on for this episode because I know you were excited last time we spoke about this game. We've got a release date for Death Stranding.
Yes, we do. Yeah. And
Are you excited?
yes and no. It's something I've been chiming on about for several years now. That Death Stranding will be the game that makes me buy a PS4. And
Have
I
you
love
have you overhyped it for yourself?
No, I don't think I've overhyped it for myself, but there is a danger that it just doesn't live up to the very lofty and rightfully so, loftily high expectations that we put on a new Hideo Kojima game.
Yeah.
Like, in the times that I've come onto Character Unlock, I've shared some of my best gaming experiences of this generation with you guys. Like, I love Titanfall 2, I love Doom.
Yeah.
But until those two came out, the sort of first big game of this generation for me was Metal Gear Solid 5. And again, I know that fell into the previous gen as well.
Yeah.
But for me, it was very much a this generation game, and I absolutely loved it. And a lot of people had right reason to criticize it, but for me, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
So whatever Kojima was doing next was always going to be very important to me in terms of checking it out and seeing if it can follow on in the very long string of excellent games that he's made. And we really don't know enough about Death Stranding yet, even with a release date in check. It's still quite vague about what it actually is.
Yes.
It seems to be massively open world like Metal Gear Solid 5 was, which I think is a good thing. There's emphasis on sort of pathfinding and building ledges and with ladders and a degree of stealth. But the combat scenes that we saw were largely weaponless, whether that is the case throughout the game or whether you do pick up a decent arsenal as you go along remains to be seen. But it doesn't seem to be a heavily combative game. And so it's difficult to say what kind of game is Death Stranding. We just don't know yet. And
it's star-studded is what it is, mate.
The cast is extremely strong, but that's not unusual for a Kojima game. He gets really good acting talent in him, and there's always a heavy emphasis on storytelling and character building.
Yeah.
Overaction, sometimes to a fault, some might say, but I like that. I mean, I don't want to play a Kojima game that's bordering on Call of Duty because that's not what he's about. He's always made very stealthy, low action games, generally speaking.
He's a storyteller.
Exactly, yeah. He wants to make movies generally in an electronic format, and he does it very well. But I'm at this point we have a date, and it's like, okay, I'm glad that they set a date now because it's been kind of getting away from itself for a bit too long. When it was announced, I expected it to have arrived much sooner than it has, because this was one of Sony's big aces in the hole when they've done reveals in the past at E3.
Yeah,
and when they're like taking shots at games that Microsoft can't deliver. We've got Death Stranding. We've put this guy away from hell at Konami.
Yeah.
But that was like 4 years ago.
Yes, it was.
And you've been milking the credit for that for a very long time now. So the game has to deliver big. I
Yeah,
think it will do, but I still want to know more, and I hope I get more of it at E3 beyond the excellent trailer that we've seen, which was very cool, very stylish. The use of music, as always with Kojima, is really good with the apocalyptic tracks that were in there.
yeah,
It was awesome. It was on a very, very grand scale.
yeah.
But yeah, begrudgingly, I've avoided buying a PS4 up until this point. I will have to get one by the time that comes out, unless, of course, it simultaneously releases to the next Sony console. But I think that's even further down the line than November, probably. But yeah, I'm excited, but ever so slightly trepidatious, just because I don't fully understand exactly what the game is yet.
Yeah,
But
I think the thing with Kojima games is like in the past because we've had Metal, well, pretty much that's all he's done, isn't it? Metal Gear Solid for the past what 20 years.
yeah, he's mostly had a career stuck in one series of games,
Yeah,
which was part of his reason for being so unhappy.
yeah,
He didn't want to just do Metal Gear Solid, although he does it very well.
but
Because some of the other games he's worked on, whilst they've been classics, they haven't made a lot of money. Stuff
no,
like Snatcher and Police Noughts and
yeah.
whatnot.
So the thing
Uh,
with a Metal Gear Solid game is whether or not he necessarily wanted to work on it. When you say there's a Metal Gear Solid game coming, you have an idea of what you're letting yourself in for, don't you
yes,
know?
exactly.
Uh, so to give him access to it, well, to give him the opportunity to create his own brand new IP, I'm I'm excited. I'm curious. I'm wondering if I need to wait and let general audiences get hold of it before I spend money on it. Maybe not spend buy 60 quid's worth of game that I might go, oh god, this ain't for me.
I think the problem with that move is, whilst that's a move that I would typically follow on a lot of other games, I don't think I can do it for a Kojima game because, as we've said, it's so story driven, and the internet will be all over it
Yeah,
and
there is
just
that.
completely trash it for you. So you either in or you're out from day one. I think if you want to get the most out of it, otherwise, it's going to be a tainted experience because there's no way people are going to shut up about
No,
it like they did for Endgame. It's
no.
just that you're not going to get those kind of what's the word I'm looking for, embargoes, to remain quiet on what happens in Death Stranding. Someone will finish it in the first weekend and it'll ruin it for all of us. So you have to get in there quick, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing that kind of sits me on the fence a little bit. Is for me, with my limited time, I'm probably looking at having to take time off of work to do it, to make sure that I get time to finish it because I've got things to do, including
Yeah,
go to work.
yeah. Go to work, be a husband, be a dad, be a podcaster.
Being anything, be a film lover and a reader and then all sorts of things. That's the kind of game that, because you're right, spoilers will be rife within the first couple of days.
It will be, but we're kind of
Wait,
used to this at that time of year. Everything good comes out
yeah,
October, November, December, right? And we're all having to make difficult decisions about what we're going to play as
yes,
priority.
yeah,
I think it's a given for me that I will be playing Death Stranding over everything else until I've decided whether I like it or not.
but see, here's
And
the thing.
then,
I want to play Call of Duty. It comes out 2 weeks beforehand and will last me 5 hours. This is
yeah,
why I love Call of Duty campaigns, mate. I can
yeah,
do that in one Saturday evening.
exactly. And another piece of news, not to segue away from Death Stranding at all, but I don't know if you picked up in the news this week as well that Shenmue 3 has been delayed ever so slightly, but it now comes out after Death Stranding rather than before. And I think that's going to be a very bad move for that game.
Yeah, that seems like it might be a nail in that game's coffin.
Well, I think the people who like Shenmue from the past, it won't affect their judgment at all. But if people are knee deep in Death Stranding right from its release, and then Shenmue 3 comes out a week later and they don't know what it is, it's probably going to pass them by completely,
Yeah,
which is a bit of a shame. So they might be mostly limited to the people who backed it on Kickstarter, and it's going to be difficult to pick up more orders for that once it's out. I think it's rather unfortunate, but I respect that Yu Suzuki wants the game to come out in its best possible light, especially given how long we've waited for it. And again, this is another one like Death Stranding where Sony touted it as a big play over Microsoft for getting exclusivity. But again, it was years and years ago. The generation is almost over, and you can't use it as a trump card over Xbox when it takes that long to come out. I'm afraid it just doesn't work like that.
No, and I think these are conversations that are going to be had a little bit later on when we start talking about E3. But the problem I think with a game like Shenmue is I think its audience is limited, not just to people that are nostalgic for Shenmue 1 and 2. I'm not particularly. I wasn't a fan, so Shenmue 3 won't come anywhere near any console I own unless someone tells me magically it's the greatest game they've ever played. But I think game companies, game developers, and most importantly game publishers are still stuck in this mentality that movies are gradually getting out of, and that's that we don't have a fixed time that we want to play games anymore. You know, you can't not release stuff over the summer because I'll be honest, I don't fucking like the sunshine. If it's sunny, mate, I'm fucking ginger. The closer I come to the sun, the more translucent I get. I shouldn't be anywhere near the outside during the summer. You know, get me to August and start releasing some games. And not just for me, for everybody. People want to play games year round, man. They can't be outside the whole fucking time. You know?
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of get, based on lack of experience in the past, why they would cycle games the way they do. And the seasonality of it as we know it today, where everything good seems to come out at the end of the year or just after New Year. But
I genuinely
the audience you're dealing with aren't affected by the fact it's sunny today, I'm going to go out. No, if they're a gamer, they're probably just going to stay in and play games.
Yeah.
And they want to have new shit to play between April and October.
Yeah.
And not just either side of those.
I genuinely thought, 9-10 years ago, I genuinely thought we were done with the concept of a gaming summer drought when Deus Ex appeared out of nowhere and fucked everything up in the middle of August. Deus Ex came out in the middle of August and was amazing. Not only was it an amazing game, but it sold gangbusters.
Yeah, but you also have to look at it from the point of view that, okay, Deus Ex isn't a rigid FPS, but it's in the FPS style.
Oh, of course.
And it can't come out at the same time as Call of Duty, Battlefield, Titanfall, all that kind of stuff, right? So, okay, it's bold, but you have to release it early, otherwise you're just going to get consumed by the people who are going to play those games that they play year in, year out, right? But yeah, more people need to do that. You need to step out of the usual release cycle and try and pitch your own flag and say, right, this is the time of year where this game is going to dominate. It's going to have reasonably exclusive run at the charts a month, 2 months. Yeah. And then the big boys come at the end of the year and get all the Christmas business, but we're going to be the kings of the summer.
Yeah. But the game industry's gone completely bizarre because now we have a massive release window in February and March.
Yeah, it's getting a bit weird, isn't it? Yeah. I wish there was more big releases around the time E3 comes around in general, because I think that's where most people who follow gaming news and are planning future purchases are at their most hyped.
Yeah.
And they're prepared to spend based on that excitement, yet they have to wait months or sometimes years for the stuff that gets them excited to actually come out. If it would be very brave if someone did something like what EA did with Apex Legends, whereby no one knew it was coming until it arrived. And there was no hype train. It's just like, here's this new thing, go and get it. And everyone went nuts for it. Yeah. Like, can you imagine if someone did that with like a paid for game? And it was, it could live up to what it's spouting and marketing on. Like, we've told you nothing about it up until right now, go and get it. And it just blew everyone away. That would be really cool.
Yeah, see, we get like 1 or 2 of them every year at E3, don't we? Didn't last year we get Unravel 2, and you can play it now. Unravel 2 isn't really the kind of game I'm looking for to be stealth released in the middle of June.
It's not going to get everyone super excited, is it?
No.
It's not a big project, put it that way.
No, not at all. Where do we go from here? I tell you what, because we were talking about it a little bit before we started recording, and I'm curious as to like continued thoughts. So the Sports Direct, the company that part owns Game, has bought more shares in Game and automatically triggered a takeover bid. So,
Nice.
what did we say? This company owns Debenhams, House of Fraser, and something else. What do you reckon? Sports Direct owning Game, or owning majority stake in Game?
Yeah, well, say what you like about Mike Ashley and Sports Direct in general. He makes things work. He's keeping a very hefty profit on the high street where everyone else seems to be struggling. So he obviously knows how to survive in the harshest of retail environments.
Oh yeah, he's
And I
got
don't
a
think
massive, just my local, so the Milton Keynes Centre. He's got a massive section of real estate that's just for Sports Direct in the middle of the most expensive part of the shopping centre, and it is never empty.
Right, okay, there you go. So I don't think Game is a strong enough company, and given the current trends in the market, to stay open on its own. It's obviously been in administration before, as we've seen a couple of years ago. So the fact that someone like Mike Ashley is prepared to step in and try and do something with it, I think is encouraging, because I don't want there to be a gamerless space in retail.
No.
I'm not a big shopper generally. My wife is, but I'm not. And when she drags me around town, the only place I generally want to go in just to stick my head in and see what's going on is Game.
I'm exactly it's like, oh sweet, do we have to go? All right, I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
you
pop.
go down to Next.
Yeah,
I'll just go Game. For
I'm
a
just
couple
gonna
of
pop
minutes.
in Game. Oh, the HMV's over there. I'm just gonna pop in HMV as well, and that's my shopping done.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you on that one. So if they can make the gaming retail space bigger, braver, more relevant, I'm all for it. And I think we were sort of discussing this ever so briefly before we came on to the podcast, as maybe retail can work if one person owns all of it, but if it's chopped up and carved up between many different people who don't seemingly know how to run a retail business in the current market conditions, it's all going to fail, and we're going to end up with purely digital game purchasing and probably going to have to order your consoles from Amazon and whatnot. And the thing that I'm most keen to avoid is, I like getting games day one.
Yeah,
And as much as I like Amazon's prices, I never get games day one or accidentally before. It just never happens. I always get them a day or two late, and
yeah,
that pisses me off. So I am quite prepared to pay a couple of quid more to get a game day one from a local store. No
yeah.
problem with that whatsoever. It's when they take the piss and overcharge you massively and basically say, did I give you a compelling argument to spend locally? It's sort of like, come in a shop, see what you want, and then go order it online, is the attitude I find with a lot of shops.
Yeah.
And make it impossible to hand over your cash in person. And I just hope Game doesn't go down that route, because I think it's already a little bit too expensive compared to Amazon in many cases.
Yeah, yeah, they are quite. Even sometimes it's only a couple of quid, but you look at, oh God forbid, like Shop2, who sell stuff for 38, 40 quid, and then you walk in a Game and they're selling the same game for 49.99. And my local Game are really cool. I love the guys that work in there. I've said this on the podcast before. They're a really good bunch that work at Game Milton Keynes. Bless them. When Game went into administration, we had 2 game stores and a game station the Game and game station were on opposite sides of the corridor. They were literally opposite each other, and then 5 minutes walk in one direction, you had another game store. So it was insanity. Even if Game didn't go into administration, we had to close these stores because no one is going to make money that way. But the guys that still work for Game in Milton Keynes are amazing. And the couple of times that I've gone to midnight releases, or me and John, we both went up to Game Milton Keynes when the Xbox One X was released. We got our consoles at midnight. Okay, it wasn't the biggest atmosphere. It wasn't big console release atmosphere. But the guys did a good job, and they got everyone excited, and we had a laugh and a joke and fucked around for an hour and came home. 1 o'clock in the morning and stared at my Xbox One as I went to bed. Now and I've got to go to work the next day. I would hate to lose that, but you do need to make a compelling argument, like you say, for me to go in and spend my money and spend time in the store and make it worth me going down. And frankly, in Milton Keynes, I've got to spend £3 just to park to come into your shop.
Yeah, I think the key for game as a super long-term venture is, I think it needs to offer more than just a place to buy games. I think it needs to be like a cultural meeting point. It needs to offer more of a retail experience, a bit like Apple does, where people like going in their shops, even if they're not intending to buy anything. They can talk to like-minded people, mess around with. I mean, they always have a booth, don't they, where you can play a PS4 or whatever, but like have, I don't know, gaming events, tournaments, clubs, I don't know, stuff that brings people into the door other than the game that they're going to buy. And I think that's the best route to success in the super long term, especially as the industry moves more towards digital downloads as opposed to physical games. They need to offer something else that gets people through the door. And I would hope that Mike Ashley and Sporting Direct know how to do that, because they are, I don't want to say kings of the high street because that sounds super cheesy, but they are
it's not
a behemoth
though.
of a retail company. They sell cheap shit and make loads of money doing it. So
but the thing is, when you, like you say, when a company or a person, whatever, owns more than just one store on a high street, you get to kind of use one as a loss leader for the other. And I think that's where game is going to probably succeed for a little longer than it would do if it was on its own under Sports Direct.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Have you come across Game Beyond? I don't know if is it called Game Beyond?
Never heard of that.
I don't know if they got one up where you are. So basically, our local game kind of refurbed, and when they refurbed, they took over the unit next door as well. And when they did that, they basically stripped it all out and they fit a bunch of high-spec PCs in, and they have gaming tournaments in there. It's kind of cool, apart from the fact they only ever play games that I'm not really interested in playing.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? So it's going to be FIFA and blah, blah, blah.
Well, yeah, I mean, when it was big, they had Overwatch competitions, which is great. I can play Overwatch. What I can't do is play Overwatch with a keyboard and mouse. I might as well just play it with my feet.
Mm-hmm.
At which point there's no point in me turning up to play a competition in front of other people who might know me because I live in this town. That's the level of embarrassment I can't be dealing with. But I do quite like the idea.
Is Game Beyond going to turn into the Games Workshop?
Oh God!
Everyone curiously looks at it, but I'm not going in there.
Yeah. Looking at the stuff from outside, going, well, that looks cool, but that's as close as I'm going to get. Yeah, possibly. I don't know how many there are. I know there are a few, but I don't know how big a area you need. I don't, because Northampton, which is just up the road from us, I don't think there's one there. But then I do have memory. I used to live in Northampton, and I have memories of the one in Northampton being painfully small. And there's a CEX opposite. I don't know how Game must feel about CEX. Everywhere I go, there's a Game. Literally within 10 paces, there's a CEX. Every time.
Mm-hmm. They tend to follow each other around, don't they?
I think they do, yeah. What else can we talk about? I tell you what. So we'll segue this into E3 chat. So yesterday, Tuesday, as we record, Amazon leaked possible Watch Dogs 3 info. How do you feel about Watch Dogs, Matt? Have you played it?
I've never played either of them. I'm not a big fan of Ubisoft games, if I'm honest with you. They don't sing to me. And I know that's a bit ignorant and you should try out as much as you can, but they've just never reached out and grabbed me for some reason.
See, I would call it completely fair, to be honest. I play most Ubisoft games as they appear. They're all the fucking same when you boil them down. And I don't mean that in a bad or negative way, but if you don't like one, you're probably not going to like the rest of them. And there are differences. Obviously, like Watch Dogs isn't quite Assassin's Creed, and Assassin's Creed,
Assassin's Creed.
yeah, Assassin's Creed isn't quite The Division, and The Division isn't quite Splinter Cell, but they all have their similarities, and actually, as the years go on, they do all look alike, and they do all play alike, and we will definitely get onto that in a little while.
Okay.
Because I managed to play a little bit of. I don't tell people what my handle is. So these people, they can only identify me by my gamer tag, and I don't say my gamer tag on the podcast, so it's all good. I managed to play Ghost Recon Breakpoint at the weekend in a technical test for Ubisoft.
Oh, okay.
It's The Division.
Uh-oh.
It is so where Ubisoft games used to be, generic Ubi was massive open world where you'd look at the map and not be able to actually see the map for all the icons on it. Now generic Ubi is big open world with a lot of leveling that you've got to do just so you can move on. It feels like The Division. It plays like The Division. I was not impressed. Not at all. So for somebody to say Ubisoft games don't speak to me, I understand that completely. I quite like them, but I understand why a lot of people don't.
I think my impression of why I don't like the look of them from an outsider's perspective, and why someone like yourself or John might really like them, is that you're both really into single player gaming.
Yes.
Where I think that's a big strength for Ubisoft games, Division not included, of course, because that's very much an online experience. But they make really, really, really big single player games, and generally that's not what I'm interested in. You know, I've maybe got time for like one or two of those a year.
Yeah.
And I've had Resident Evil 2. I'm going to have Death Stranding. I don't know if I have.
I think you've made your quota for 2019.
Maybe. I mean, there's still single player games that I should and probably will try out that I haven't done yet, like Red Dead and Sekiro.
Yeah.
But I like online multiplayer games. Generally speaking, that's what I get my kicks out of. So Ubisoft don't offer enough of that. And what I really don't like, and it's a big trend in the industry at the moment that they're trying to ram down everyone's neck, is I don't like playing with strangers. I don't like playing in teams. I want to play on my own and kick people's arse. I don't want to be forced into being reliant upon strangers and having to use voice comms with people I don't like. It pisses me off.
Yeah, no, I understand that completely. So me, John, and Lee our mate Lee played The Division a fair bit a couple of months ago, and that was probably as close to online play as I really want to play. I don't like always online. I don't like live services. I'm not a fan. So one of my Watch Dogs, actually, ironically, had a serious problem when it first came out. So one of the big selling points for Watch Dogs was it was always online, and you could be invaded. So your game could be invaded by another player that you didn't know. And
sounds like my worst nightmare.
Mate, it's mine as well. I'm sitting at, and it genuinely happened. I was about 4 or 5 hours into the game. I'm dotting around, I'm doing a few bits, and suddenly you get this thing come up, you are being invaded. I'm like, what? Some cunt that I've never heard of before in my life turns up, shoots me, and fucks off. Like, what?
Yeah. Why is that compelling?
How is this fun? And that happened twice. I'm like, okay, I'm done. I switched the game off and I didn't turn it back on. And it wasn't until I think about 3 months later they patched it so that you could at least, because you couldn't switch it off.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's like if you invite it, then fair enough. But if you can't turn it off, that's just disaster. Yeah. You can imagine the creative meetings they were having before it came out, and when they're trying to build the game from the ground up. It's like, how do we get people to play more often once the game's a bit old? I know, we'll have their entire game completely at risk constantly, so they have to keep coming back online to defeat people.
This is not a compelling argument for me to hand over 60 quid for your game. It really ain't. And it wasn't until they patched it so I could at least turn it to friends only that I because I don't have many friends on Xbox. I literally have people that are actual friends. I don't have a 200 strong friends list. I don't need one. So setting it to friends only helped. What didn't help was the fact that the main character was a bit of a dick. But Watch Dogs fell into the what was at the time quite a common thing where Ubisoft new IPs were shite, but they fixed everything for the sequel. Assassin's Creed, the biggest and most famous one.
Right.
As much as I loved Assassin's Creed 2 was the dog's bollocks. Watch Dogs 1 was a struggle to get through. Like, I fought to get to the end of that. Watch Dogs 2 was fucking great. It was the one thing that Watch Dogs 1 wasn't, and that was fun. You in a massive
Amazing
game,
how easy that is to overlook, right?
It is, and it always kind of throws me when a company expects me to spend 40 to 60 hours inside their game, but not actually make the characters fun or the stuff I'm doing fun.
Anything, just all grindy.
Yeah,
wandering around this big open world that's big for the sake of it, that isn't actually relevant.
So they improved everything with Watch Dogs 2, and I liked Watch Dogs 2 a lot, and kind of when rumours started kicking in for Watch Dogs 3, I did get quite interested, and I would be interested in a Watch Dogs 3 and probably would pick it up relatively close to release, depending on how they do things, because again, we're now back to always online and always in co-op, and my biggest gripe with the always online campaign game is the inability to pause.
Yeah.
I do
as
not.
A family man, a busy person in general.
As a family man, as someone who drinks way too much coffee for most hours of his day, I occasionally need to pause the game and take a piss. What I don't want to do is pause the game, take a piss, come back and realise I've died 3 times because I didn't actually pause the game.
That's one of the the absolute downfalls of Battle Royale for me, is that I've got quite a weak bladder. I go to the fucking loo constantly. And I basically have to clean up very early on in game so I can run into the middle of the map, hide in the grass, and then go for a piss.
Yep.
And hope that I get back and haven't died.
And it is a bizarre, but it's not just the pausing of a game. So the Division does this, and Breakpoint did it as well. Now Breakpoint, I'd lost my shit with Breakpoint when it done this. It wasn't just the pausing of the game; it's going through loadouts, going through skill trees, anything like this. Your game is still running in the background. I died going, trying to understand how the skill trees in Ghost Recon were working. How has that not paused the game? Especially as it's giving me tutorial hints while I'm doing it. You could at least pause it while I've got to read something. You fucking douchebags. So the online service thing is a sticking point for me, and if Watch Dogs 3 leans towards that, I would probably be put off a little bit. But I am kind of looking forward to it. There's no details for it yet. Outside, it's apparently set in a near future, post-Brexit dystopian version of London.
I'm in. That sounds amazing.
I kind of am as well. I kind of like the idea that post-Brexit means we're getting towards another Mad Max game. This sounds like a London I want to spend time in.
Sounds awesome.
I
mean, nothing will get people talking about the game more if they say it's about Brexit.
This is true. And it's going to be...
For better or for worse.
Well, it's going to be one of them, though, isn't it? The people that... It doesn't matter whether you're for it or against it, people are going to buy it so they can scream its praises or scream about it.
Oh, it's very clever because they'll do all the marketing buzz for you. If you just say, it's about Brexit.
Yeah.
Wow. Or what happens to Brexit 20 years later?
It's going to be interesting. I'm quite curious, but it's going to be cool for it to be in London. We haven't had a good game set in London for a while.
They say that there's definitely clips of Modern Warfare in London, so
true.
There seems to be a triumphant return to gritty Britishness in video games.
That I'd be okay with that. I really would. there's some. I wouldn't mind some returning characters for Watch Dogs coming over to London. I think that would be kind of cool. I would be interested, and I guarantee. So
I guess it works well with Watch Dogs because London's the most CCTV laden city in the world, right? So
yeah,
it's
oh yeah.
plenty to hack.
I don't think there's a corner in London you can go where you're not under surveillance by something.
Yeah, so
It's
like, it kind of makes sense, right?
yeah, it's going to be a good. As long as they do it right, I think it'll be a good setting for Watch Dogs.
I'm prepared to keep an open mind on it, even though I haven't played the other two. I don't feel like I have to be one of these guys who I need to go back and play the first and the second one before I try this one. If it looks cool, I'll just play it. It's not a problem. So we
The thing
shall
is,
see.
kind of one doesn't connect into two outside of the the basic premise of an operating system that runs a city, and you are part of the same hacker collective. You don't need to have played one to play two, and I would bet you don't need to play one and two to play three. And if you do, and if you're desperate to find out, I'm sure I can find you a YouTube video somewhere that explains to you the story of both in about 15 minutes, and that will
There
be
you
all
go.
you need. Yeah, it's been too long. If this was a yearly increment game like Assassin's Creed used to be, I would probably say, yeah, you might want to at least play the story bits.
Mm.
I don't think you
I
need
would
to.
say they need to force it out before Cyberpunk arrives, though, whenever that happens to be.
Well, this is yeah, it's got to fight with Cyberpunk. Now, I'm guessing. I don't know if the thing on Amazon actually showed a release date. I'm guessing that's going to be our big game. Oh no, because Ghost Recon is not October, November. So if it ain't out at Christmas, which I doubt, I reckon probably February or March. That other big release window that we have. There's
Okay,
no.
so it's safely going to get in before
Oh
Cyberpunk
yeah,
does.
so I don't. We're not seeing Cyberpunk until at least next Christmas.
Yeah, so it's got a few months to try and make some money before we completely forget about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure we will hear. So I suppose that segues us into talking about E3. So that we'll definitely see more of that on Monday night, Tuesday
I can't
night
wait.
for the Ubisoft conference. So let's have a chat about E3.
Do let's.
Because E3 is the big one every year. So it's really funny. So I was talking to John a couple of podcasts ago about how people like we talk about people like Cliffy B and David Jaffe. We know who these people are, and they are in our world they're really famous. But you ask my wife who they are, she's got no fucking idea. So I'm sitting at work getting all buzzed for E3, and I'm surrounded by a bunch of people that don't play video games and have got no fucking idea what I'm on about. So it's going to be really nice to talk to somebody else about E3 and someone who understands it.
Oh, I
Mate,
feel honoured.
tell me about E3. What do you think to E3 as in general as a whole?
I love E3. I think it's always been a marker for what predominantly the Western side of the industry is up to, as opposed to what Sony and Nintendo do in their little camp in Japan.
Yeah.
So it's sorry, especially nowadays, it's very Xbox driven, PC driven, indie driven, and then the sort of Western facing side of PlayStation and Nintendo do their thing over here. But even though there seems to be slightly less involvement from some of the big players year on year than there has been in the past, I still think it's super relevant. And it's the driver for industry news for the next 12 months and beyond. You know, we've spent the first half of this show talking about games that were announced at E3 years ago.
Yeah.
So it shows how it fuels the debate, the what we're looking forward to, the progress of a generation of gaming and into the next one. So I still think it's super relevant. And as far as what I'm personally looking forward to, I'm very much in camp Xbox these days, although I don't shirk what the other people are up to whatsoever. I'll still watch their stuff. But I always really look forward to Phil Spencer's talks at E3. I think he's the best presenter out of all
That
the
dude is one.
heads.
He is one hell of a personality.
He is, and you know it's genuine. He isn't just a corporate shill, just spouting bollocks. He's in the deep end. He's in the trenches with the people who make these games and are working on Xbox as a product, as a platform, and
Yeah.
he's passionate about it. And it shows. You know, he is as genuine a face of a gaming company as I think you can get.
I think you're right. You watch him. I don't know if you do, but I follow him on Twitter as well, and you kind of watch him talk about things and get into conversations with people, and especially like the E3 stuff and the other little shows that Microsoft get involved in. And you know that he's not bullshitting you when he says, "Oh, I was in such and such a city talking to this team, and then I went to somewhere else and talked to another team, and I was at the R&D looking at the latest console ideas." And you're like, he's actually done that. He's not bullshitting because he wants to sell this shit to you. He's doing it and he's enjoying it, and he's trying to show us just how much he enjoys it. And we should all wish that we were him, because holy crap, he must love his job. You can tell he loves his job.
Yeah, it's a very privileged position to be in. But with great power comes great responsibility, as a certain franchise likes to say.
Yeah.
And he's had a good couple of years now whereby he hasn't been to blame for some of the lackings in the Microsoft lineup, but it's getting to a point now whereby he's had control of the reins for a while. He needs to start delivering the big games that people who are on the Microsoft platform desperately need, because even as a big Xbox fan, I can say that Sony have absolutely destroyed as far as unique IP is concerned.
Yes.
Whereas Microsoft, okay, they have the best online platform and the best console now. They didn't at the beginning, but they do now.
Yeah.
They haven't delivered enough on games. It's getting better all the time, and we've got Game Pass and everything, so there's definitely lots to be happy about. But I don't think there's been enough big in-house first-party games from Microsoft in this generation. And I think that's Phil's big thing now. He needs to take ownership of his position, and how that aligns with the destiny of the Xbox brand is, you've had time, what have you got for us? And I don't mean in years to come. What am I getting this year specifically? And then what am I getting for the first wave of the next Xbox next year, or whenever it is that it's coming out?
Yeah.
We need more short-term focus rather than super long-term, that people get completely disinterested. Because the thing that frustrates me most about E3 is I watch all the talks and get super excited and pre-order everything, and by the time they come out, the hype is dead. I could not be less interested. And that has happened with numerous games this year. Like on the back of E3 last year, I think I pre-ordered Rage 2, Sekiro, bunch of stuff, didn't buy them. Just wasn't interested by the time I went. It's too much pre-hype build. I want more short-term shit as well as long-term shit to look forward to. And I think and hope that's what we're going to get from Phil, is loads of good short-term news and then loads of cool long-term shit, which has been lacking in the last few years because of the shit state of affairs Xbox was in before Phil Spencer took over.
Yeah. Are you looking for more original new IP from Microsoft, or is there some series you wouldn't mind seeing coming back? And
I'm not a big fan of any of Microsoft's like in-house stuff as far as existing IP goes. I like Forza because I like the odd racing game, but I'm not like crazy for them. But I'm not like a big fan of Fable or Gears. I'm not even that into Halo. Which, why the fuck do you own an Xbox if you don't like these games? But I like Xbox because it's the best platform, not because I like their exclusivity at all. It doesn't do anything for me. No. But it's the best online service. It's the best hardware as far as consoles are concerned. It certainly doesn't live up to a beefy gaming PC, but it's the best place to play most of the games that I like. And they're not always Microsoft exclusive. So I'm quite happy to see loads of new stuff as well as some of the existing stuff if they can win me over with the new Halo, which, the little glimpses we've seen of it looked fantastic, but I'm just not that excited about Halo for some reason.
I get to stand on the outside and look in when it comes to Halo. I don't hate Halo. I am completely indifferent to it. I couldn't care less.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I don't dislike it, but it's not like.
So when was it? Was it last year they showed new Halo?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
So they showed obviously the music, and the music. I'll give them that. The music in the Halo franchise is almost second to none. I used to work with a guy who, after Halo 3 came out, he sat there listening to the soundtrack in the office and it was beautiful, amazing music. So I can see why people get excited once the music kicks in. But the cheering when you see Master Chief, and I was like, all right. I didn't even go, oh, for fuck's sake. I just went, all right, cool, I suppose.
Yeah, there's some people who it just means an awful lot to, and I get that. I'm not one of them, unfortunately.
No.
I think to understand why there's such an emotional connection to something like Halo Master Chief, you need to have been an Xbox gamer from the beginning, almost.
Yeah.
It's like if you invested in brand Xbox from the first console,
Yeah.
and Halo was this world beating thing when it came out, and Halo 2 to a point. I can totally get why you're so emotionally attached to the series and to the characters, but if you've come in late when the series really started to go downhill in the late days of the Xbox 360 and what we've had so far this gen, like who cares about Halo?
Yeah.
It's a franchise, and in terms of its broader appeal, it's a million years behind the stuff that most kids are playing online these days, like Fortnite and Apex Legends and stuff.
Yep.
It's got to do a lot of work to win back the larger gaming community and not just the hardcore, because the people who liked Halo all their lives will still buy it regardless. It's like, how do you get the casuals back in?
Yeah.
How do you get it to compete with Call of Duty year in, year out?
Yeah.
And they haven't done that for a long time. So if they can show us something that makes me change my tune, I'm all for it. I think my expectations of Xbox, if I'm realistic, is I just want to know about the new machine, and I want to know more about the specs. I want to know how it aligns next to budget range or mid range PC gaming.
Yep.
Because I think we're at a point in time now with gaming whereby the general populace, the gaming community, are so aware that they're on the short end of the shrift by just playing on consoles based on how much they cost versus performance,
Yeah.
that you'd almost be an idiot to not consider just not buying the next console and just getting a PC instead. You have to mull it over. Whether you do or you don't is up to you. But if you don't consider it, you're doing yourself a
Oh no, it
disservice.
definitely should be a consideration. I think I said this to somebody when the specs for the PS5 were announced, and it wasn't the specs so much that got me. It was the what was it they said? Oh, Spider-Man now loads in about 3 seconds as opposed to it used to be 90. I'm like, and I know this is me being just a pissant and a cynic and not wanting to buy into the bullshit, but I'm sitting there going, you're loading a PS4 game on your new hardware. I expect it to be fast. Is it still going to do that in 5 years' time with your PS5 exclusive game? That's the question I want answered. I don't care if a game I've already finished playing and probably won't bother switching on again loads faster on your new
Yeah.
machine. It
Is
does
Grand Theft Auto 6 going to load quickly?
exactly. The,
That's what
the,
we want to know, right?
these are the questions that I need answering. I don't care if God of War loads faster because God of War is a PS4 game. Tell me how the PS5 games load. You know, I need to know what these new consoles are going to give me for my new games. Because I'll be perfectly honest, when you say backwards compatibility, and there are games that I will want to play again, right? Okay, frankly, God of War, probably one of them. But backwards compatibility is a nice add-on for me. The ability to go back and play some of the games I own if I get time. I barely have time to play the games I want to play that came out this year. So to have time to go back and play one from 4 years ago, I'm not going to care if it loads in 6 seconds or 90. If I finally get the time to play it, I'm going to play it for 2 hours and then go play whatever comes out next week. That's just me. But I don't care about marketing bollocks like that. I need to know how this is going to perform, and I need to know if I'm going to spend 700 quid on a console, or however much it's going to cost, am I going to be better off maybe building myself a nice little box to sit under my TV and run it in Steam big picture mode?
Yeah, I
Do you
think
know what I mean?
that's a very sensible way of looking at it. And I think the answer inevitably is always going to be you're better off getting a PC.
Yeah,
But we don't always want to, which is why we're in consoles in the first place, right? So it's like,
yeah,
okay, if we remove the argument that PC gaming, subjectively speaking, is better or better value,
yeah,
then we're left with how do you bridge the gap? Because the gap this generation was frankly ridiculous. You
yes.
know, these consoles that we've been playing the last 5 years are so underpowered, it's embarrassing. It's
Well,
like
these consoles were rushed
if
out.
you can get me within touching distance for a reasonable value for money proposition, I'm in.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be bigger, better. even on par. It just needs to be close,
Yeah.
and then I will accept the argument of convenience over better performance and stick with the consoles. But at the moment, it's such a bad balance between console and PC. It's like any self-respecting gamer who could afford it should have a gaming PC. I could afford one. I'm just too lazy to go and try and get back into keyboard and mouse gaming. That's my problem.
Yeah, I tend to I stick more towards the it is convenience. I put the disc in, I want it to play. I don't want to have to dick around with downloads. Well, obviously have to dick around with downloads for fucking consoles now anyway. But I don't,
That's not a valid argument.
It's not anymore, no, really, is it? But I tell you the big one that put me off, and this is a complete tangent, but I remember I was talking to somebody about wanting to play Battlefield 2. I hadn't played Battlefield 2 in fucking ages. And then it went on sale like that week on Steam. I was like, shit, yeah, it's like a fiver, I'll do that. I got it bought, I got it downloaded, ready to go. I had to spend an hour dicking around with my PC because Battlefield 2 doesn't like playing on multi-core PCs. I was like, this is not a level of geekery I can be dealing with when I just want to shoot some people, man. It's not anywhere near what I want to do. I want to plonk my ass down on my sofa in front of the biggest screen I have in my house and just play Call of Duty.
There you go.
You know,
you made yourself the most compelling argument possible to buy the next console. There, I can't argue.
if I could, I can afford it.
Big telly, shoot people in face.
Well, there you go. I'm not prepared to put my PC in my living room, and I'm certainly not prepared to put my big TV in the office.
Fair dues, mate. So yeah, I think we digress ever so slightly. We need to get back to E3, right? So as far as stuff, I want to know more about the console specs. That's how we started talking about this PC stuff and how it kind of bridges the gap and makes a compelling argument to stay on brand Xbox. And I love brand Xbox. I'm such a sucker for it. I want to know more about the streaming deal they have with PlayStation. What does Microsoft sort of see itself becoming in the years to come? Is it a more of a services type company? Is it going to remain an exclusive platform? All that kind of stuff. What's their commitment to exclusivity? Do they even have one? And they've bought up all these studios. I presume that they're still very committed to making lots of exclusive content for Xbox and not selling it to Stadia and PlayStation and Nintendo Switch and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But it's a much more diverse company than it was a few years ago, and I want to know more about where they're going with that. And then, of course, there's a certain few games that I'm super interested in, such as Doom Eternal. That's just going to rock my socks off, and that comes out.
That nicely takes us on to Bethesda. Now, a couple of years ago, Bethesda were my favourite company in the world, and a big part of that was
funny that you and John are so opposite,
isn't it? Just so 2 E3s ago, yeah. It might have been 3 E3s ago. Bethesda came out and they'd done their conference, and they said everything we show today is going to be out before Christmas. That included Doom, and they delivered. They showed 3 or 4 big games, impressive games, and all of them were out, and all of them were high quality, and all of them were, within that 7-month window.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, last year they fucking screwed the pooch a little bit. They fucked up with Fallout 76.
Oh yes,
they fucked up big time with Fallout 76, and this I blame them. But I don't lay all the blame on them. They announced that they were working on the Elder Scrolls 6. Yeah? So the guy, I've forgotten the guy's name, but he came out and he literally said, we are working on this, you will not see it for at least a couple of years, but we wanted to let you know it's happening. And then they showed this Elder Scrolls 6 thing. And I have done nothing ever since but see people go, I can't wait for the Elder Scrolls 6. I hope we get to see my Elder Scrolls 6 at E3 this year. Well, you might do. But you've been told it's going to be a couple of years. And I think this falls into the hype years in advance that you were talking about earlier. So people don't hear the fact that it's in development and will be a couple of years. People just hear Elder Scrolls 6, and now they're all hyped. For fuck's sake, guys.
It's like, how can you possibly sustain hype for years, literally years? Even the most ardent, talented marketing people can't sustain hype that long. It's like, why are you doing this? You're not stopping people from buying your competitors' games by announcing yours 2 or 3 years in advance. It doesn't work like that. So what are they achieving by revealing it now? Is it just to get a shareholder bump or something? I don't understand.
No, I don't.
I think, generally speaking, and this is just my preference, of course, other people can say differently, but if it's at E3, I really need to see it out within a year. Otherwise, it's going to fall off my radar very, very quickly.
Yeah, see, I get frustrated when I see a game at E3 that I saw last E3.
Yeah, and we're going to see that with a few things this year. Yeah. Definitely Cyberpunk.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Like you say, Elder Scrolls. I mean, it's happened many times, and Death Stranding's the best example of it ever. But it is annoying when it's like we come to E3 for new shit and we're seeing stuff from several years ago. It's just like, Crackdown was embarrassing.
Well, Crackdown is the biggest joke of them all, and it's good that Microsoft's going to have to work hard to shake that off, I think.
Yes, they do, yeah, because they can't repeat that.
No.
In the new gen, it won't be tolerated.
No. And I think Bethesda have created a rod for their own back as well with Elder Scrolls and Fallout 76. I think they need to come at it big this year. Now,
I think they've done like irrevocable damage to Fallout as a brand now.
I think they have.
Fallout 4 wasn't amazing.
But Fallout 4 has its fans.
Yeah, I mean, it's an okay game, but as far as like the end result compared to the hype, wasn't there. And then 76 is absolutely tanked.
Yeah.
And it must have set them back significantly.
Oh, it must have cost them a fortune.
Yeah, totally. And it's like, how do you recover this beloved brand after maybe one stinker and one that was a little bit hit and miss?
Yeah.
It's difficult. And, if you're going to make a new Fallout game, that's a good 3 years of development.
Yeah.
It's like, do we want to keep investing in this brand that's probably on its arse now?
Yeah.
Maybe not. And that's a shame because they are great games.
See, I reckon we get, and Bethesda are quite good at this, so they do start announcing big DLC for games that have recently released and people are still excited for. So I bet we get Rage 2 announcements.
Yes.
Next week. Personally, and I say this every year, and I want to see anything from Arcane. Arcane work exclusively with Bethesda. I believe they're probably owned by Bethesda at this point.
You have to remind me what they've done. Cause
Dishonored.
Okay.
Dishonored and they redone PrE.
Right, okay.
So their games are right up my street. Stealth, action, story-filled, single-player. Arcane make games that I gravitate towards. And Dishonored was just one of those games that out of nowhere floored me and became one of my favourite franchises of all time. So I would like to see something else from them. But I don't know.
Fingers crossed.
I don't know what else they do. Obviously, we've got Doom Eternal's going to be the big one this year. And I'll be honest, if I'm going to take time off of work for a game this year, it ain't going to be Death Stranding, mate. It's going to be fucking Doom.
See, you don't need to, though, because you can't spoil anything in Doom. You know what you're getting, right?
You can't, but I just want to not stop playing it.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, it is probably the game I'm most looking forward to. That of what we know is already out there. I mean, something you could come up and totally change my tune on that, but Doom Eternal's the first thing I've put on my list of stuff I'm looking forward to for E3, followed by Cyberpunk, and I'm hoping Capcom come out with something for Resident Evil 3 Remake, because RE2 was so fantastic and so well received. I think they would benefit from jumping on the momentum that game has built and trying to get this one out relatively fast. I'm hoping it's already well into development, because I think they knew they were onto a good thing after Resident Evil 7, and if 2 did well, 3 would follow quite soon after.
They can use a lot of the assets from 2 to do it as well, so they should be able to turn it around pretty quick. I would
I think
hope.
so. And they certainly don't have to change engine or anything. The RE engine for 2 was marvelous.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my 3 big things.
Capcom have tried really hard to piss all over all that goodwill we've got for them, though. You see
How so?
their Switch releases.
No, I don't
So
really follow Switch news. So
okay, so they've released. I might be wrong in the ones they've done, but I'm pretty sure they've released Resi 4, 5, and 6. I
oh,
believe
mhm.
at £30 a pop.
Yeah, but people who have Switches love paying Switch tax
It is
and
such.
rebuying games that they were playing 10 years ago. I mean,
Mate, I own
I
4
very
games for
nearly,
my Switch, and it's because I refuse to spend that kind of money.
I very nearly made this like a point for the whole podcast. It's just to talk about how strange people are who willingly buy into the Switch ecosystem. And the first bad example of that was when Doom came out, because it was way more expensive than the Xbox and PlayStation 1.
The
When
lower
that
frame rate.
to like 10 quid pretty quickly, as I remember, and then they're
Yeah.
trying to flog the Switch version at 50, and
Yep.
it's not even like 720p 60 frames a second. It's like, what are you guys doing? You either have a PS4 or Xbox, or you could get one, but you're going to pay to play a really shit version of it on Switch just because I like Switch. I'm sorry, it doesn't bode well,
No.
and letting people get away with that by handing you money over continually just sends out very bad messages to the industry about what they can and can't get away with.
Yeah.
And I think there's lots of positives about the Switch, particularly as someone like me who leans towards the retro side of gaming. Switch is a great platform for that, but they do overcharge you for a lot of these old IPs and games that have been around for years that most of us have been emulating for free for decades.
Yeah. There's a lovely thing on
It's a
Switch.
brand new old game. Go and buy it for 30 quid. Like,
I,
really?
I don't know how many times I fucking bought different versions of Super Mario Brothers on various Nintendo platforms.
Yeah, that's the stinker as well. Is you buy something from the Wii store and it doesn't follow over to Wii U, or it doesn't follow over to Switch. You have to buy them, and it's pretty shit. It's very anti-consumer, but Nintendo, they're a money-making machine. They know what they're doing, and they know their fan base will just eat shit sandwiches off them forevermore.
You're not wrong. The Nintendo, the whole ecosystem for Nintendo and the people that buy into it it's bizarre to me. I own a Switch because I wanted to own a Switch. I own 3 games because I won't pay the money for it. My Switch gets used so the tiny one can play Mario Kart. And to be honest, the only reason I haven't sold on my Switch, because I haven't played it in fucking months, is so the tiny one can play Mario Kart. I wouldn't go out especially to spend 300 quid so she can play Mario Kart, but now I have it and Mario Kart, she might as well. I don't use it. And I damn sure wouldn't buy Doom on it or Wolfenstein.
Yeah. Exactly. It's very weird. You're playing current gen games on less than last generation's hardware.
But these games, and Doom especially, these games deserve the biggest screen you can get, the best sound system you can get, the audio in Doom, from the monsters to the guns to the music. That ain't to be watched on earbuds and a tiny screen.
Amen, brother. I'm with you 100%.
But I will be surprised if they turn, because I don't know, has Doom Eternal been announced for the Switch? I don't know if it has.
What the hell?
Can you imagine?
I hope not.
Who else have we got? So there's no Sony anymore at E3.
EA do their own thing about the same time.
Well, so EA do EA Play, which is EA being at E3, or not being at E3, but grabbing onto the E3 hype. So they usually do theirs like the Saturday night or the Sunday evening.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually simulcast between a UK location and an American one. But, okay, so you're a FIFA player. Are you still a FIFA player? Do you still play FIFA?
I haven't played this year's one at all, but I might dip into the next one.
Are you
So yeah, I'll
excited
be
to see?
interested to see what they come up with anyway. Yeah.
Are you excited to see another FIFA announcement from EA this year?
Excited isn't the word I use, but I am always curious to see what the next thing is. But they always do a good job of hyping it up and make it look good. And whatever arrives on day one is usually changed by the first patch 2 weeks later. So it's hard to get excited about FIFA as a new thing because it isn't, quite frankly. But I'll certainly check it out. But excited is the word I would use.
Yeah. See, I have a similar kind of reaction to Madden, which is a game that I play every year. But every year, as the years go on, it's longer and longer between release and me actually playing it. And I thought, well, it's just, there's only so many advanced grass physics I can get behind before I'm not really interested anymore.
Yeah.
Madden Ultimate Team isn't really a thing in this country. Not many people play it, so I don't really have people I can talk to and bond with about it. So I play it for a couple of hours with whatever free packs I get my hands on. I don't spend money on Ultimate Team anymore. I don't really care who ends up on the cover. Again, in this push towards digital, what do I care about the player on the cover? It's just an icon. Yeah. It's just a tile. And I hate that I'm always this fucking negative as well. But
there's plenty of news outlets and podcasts who focus purely on the positives and then pretend there's nothing negative going on in gaming. We have to provide balance.
But the thing for me, so I used to get excited every year about whatever shooter EA was putting out. So for a couple of years we bounced, didn't we? So like we had Call of Duty, we had Treyarch, Infinity Ward. We had Battlefield, Medal of Honor, Battlefield, Medal of Honor. And then after the second Medal of Honor, and they fucked it completely, it went to Battlefield, and then everything just kind of dissipated for me. The excitement for it went away. And Battlefield was my game. Where everybody else got excited for Call of Duty, I was pumped for Battlefield. And I'm not anymore. I'm kind of hoping we get a new modern-ish one, because I don't like historical shooters for multiplayer. I'm not a fan. I don't like them as much as a standard modern shooter like, say, Battlefield 4 or Modern Warfare, but I prefer kind of the futuristic feel of Advanced and Infinite Warfare that we had a few years ago. I know you weren't a fan of the jump in. I remember you getting rather angry
Infinite
about
Warfare?
that. Yeah. Was it Infinite Warfare or Advanced Warfare? They had the jump packs.
Oh, that was Advanced Warfare. I liked that. I thought it was cool.
Oh, okay. I thought, who was it that didn't like it? I thought I could have sworn it was
Infinite
you. Infinite
Warfare, I didn't like the multiplayer in general.
Okay.
The campaign was sensational, and that's unusual for me because I'm not a campaign player.
Yeah.
But I thoroughly, they got that spot on. There was nothing compelling about the multiplayer whatsoever. So I played the campaign and then just very slowly drifted away from that game, as a lot of people did. But it was a high point as well with the campaigns, because I remember us talking about it when it came out. It was fantastic. But I would get my teeth into a more modern day esque Battlefield game for sure, or even recent past. Like, my favourite of the whole series is Battlefield Vietnam, the old PC one, not the sort of Xbox 360 era one. I never played that, so I don't know if it's any good. But the old PC Battlefield Vietnam that's a high watermark, an online FPS for me. That was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
So something of that ilk would make me very happy.
Yes, if they brought it forward, and I would take a campaign set in Vietnam, I would take a multiplayer set in Vietnam.
That would be cool, wouldn't it? Yeah, no one's really tackled that.
No, we had a little. No, we haven't had a little bit. So we get a lot of the Japanese stuff of World War II, which has a very similar feel as gameplay goes. But we haven't really had a proper Vietnam game, and I would take a Vietnam campaign. Because you and me ain't that much different. We've grown up with a lot of Vietnam War films, man. Can you imagine fucking playing Hamburger Hill? Come on.
There's lots of historical high points that they could really pinch, like with Medal of Honor did for Allied Assault and Private Ryan and whatnot.
Yeah,
you can imagine what they can borrow from film for Vietnam. It would be so cool.
Well, because I think it was Bad Company 2 had the Vietnam expansion for it, for the multiplayer, and one of the maps for it was Hill 731, which was Hamburger Hill, and it was phenomenal. The Vietnam expansion for Battlefield 2, Bad Company 2, was one of the best multiplayer experiences I've ever had. And Where people sit there going, oh, we want Bad Company 3, we want Bad Company 3. Well, yes, because I'm kind of hoping that we get more like that, please. Because holy shit, it was amazing. I desperately hope we get something big, modern, or even modern-ish from Battlefield this year. I'm done.
Yeah, I think the gaming public have kind of rejected outright future and historical shooters now. It's like we're bored shitless of them.
We
We
just
need
need,
something much closer to modern times out of shooters now.
yeah, I think we just need some variety. So you can't say, like, Call of Duty releases Call of Duty World War Two, and everybody follows suit because everybody was going on about wanting to play a World War Two game again. Someone released a World War Two game, so now it's time for Battlefield to do something different. This is
Yeah,
how
well,
we
they've done
ended.
two historical ones on the trot, and they haven't
Yep.
done well, right? So Battlefield 3 and 4 were high points of the series, so
Yep.
they surely have to go back to those.
Here's a hoping.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm down, and we can squad up and kick some ass.
Absolutely. So who else do we have at E3? So we have UB. We've pretty much gone through everything UB, I suppose. Splinter Cell. No. Ghost Recon. We'll see more Ghost Recon Breakpoint. I'm losing interest having played the tech test. Watch Dogs. Beyond Good and Evil. I reckon we see some actual Beyond Good and Evil gameplay.
That would be nice. Yeah, totally down for that.
What else do they do? UB have always got a surprise or two. And I will always give them that. They always come out with something. So when they first revealed Ghost Recon Wildlands, it was a surprise. It was 3 years before it came out and it pissed everybody off. But it was a surprise. We had Steep, which was a bizarre idea to make that the surprise, considering how shit that turned out to be.
Hmm.
And Watch Dogs.
I guess we have just skirting away from Newbie. We
Yeah.
have Respawn with their Star Wars game,
Yeah, this is true. So that's
which
through EA, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess yeah. So it's not straight on to E3, I suppose. Yeah,
But that would
but
be
about the same time at least.
yeah, that would be the big one for them to show because a lot of people I know are quite excited for that. And Battlefront 2, after they fixed the really bad balancing and microtransaction issues, Battlefront 2 done them quite well and apparently was really good. So,
I don't have much positive to say about either of those
no?
Battlefront games because when I played the demos of both of them, and I can hand on heart say at their individual points in time, they were two of the best looking games around at that point, but they were just so boring.
Yes.
And I'm not even getting into the tragedy of the microtransaction problems that they had. They were just dull. The action was boring.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Um,
I'll give you that. So John, me, and a couple of mates played it at EGX the year before I think it came out. I've never been so bored.
it's sad, but you think you could do so much
But again,
with
this
that
is the
IP,
problem.
but it was dull.
The multiplayer action is being built by the guys that make Battlefield. This should be better. Even as a non-Star Wars fan, this should be better. And it is just so dull.
Yeah, it's amazing how that could even be an outcome, right? But
Yeah.
they don't always get it right. But I really enjoyed what were they called, the Force Within, those games that were on the 360 when that came out, the single player Star Wars games.
Oh yeah, I know with Starkiller. Starkiller, was that the character's name?
Oh, I can't remember now. I'm sounding like a rank amateur.
I think we both are now, mate.
Oh, The Force Unleashed.
The
There we
Force
go.
Unleashed. There we go.
I
Yeah.
just saved my bacon. I thought those games were really good. So I have a curiosity about what Respawn are doing as a single player game for Star Wars. We're well overdue a really good Star Wars game because historically we've had loads, particularly on PC.
Yeah.
If you think about X-Wing and TIE Fighter and those RPG ones everyone likes, Knights of the Old Republic and stuff.
Yeah.
Why have we gone so long without a killer Star Wars game? How hard can it be? I think it's probably more of a reflection on where Star Wars is at rather than the gaming side. It's Star Wars is so hit and miss with
Yeah.
this new trilogy, and has completely polarized the fan base. It's like it must be hard for EA to know exactly what kind of Star Wars game people want because people can't decide what kind of Star Wars movie they want.
No, no, it is and I think this speaks kind of volumes to the issues with just fan bases for anything at the moment. And when a company, whether it be a game or a film company, tries to kind of please everybody, they end up pleasing no one.
I was just thinking the very same thing. Well said.
And I think that's just the fact that that's the world we live in now, mate. People that enjoy it are going to get on and enjoy it. People that don't are going to complain about it online, and they're going to be the vocal minority, maybe, but they're the vocal ones.
Now, here's a question for you about Battlefield because you are, as far as people I know, the biggest Battlefield fan out there.
Okay.
It's like, how would you feel given that DICE have been a little bit ropey with between Star Wars and Battlefield in recent years, that someone else had a go at Battlefield, maybe Respawn, for example?
Bring it on. Genuinely, I would say bring it on. I would love to see another studio make a shooter. Now, I know a lot of people don't like it, but I loved the Medal of Honor reboot in 2010. And that was... Oh god, they became danger close games when they made the second one, but they were basically EA Redwood from back in the day. So they were this tiny little EA studio that were allowed to make a Medal of Honor game, and it was a superb shooter. What was bizarre about it was made by two companies. So I think I need to get this right. DICE made the multiplayer, while EA Redwood made the single player, and the multiplayer was nothing to write home about, but it was an answer to Call of Duty because all the maps were smaller and tighter and the gunplay was smaller and tighter, much like a Call of Duty game, instead of the massive, vast, expansive map you get with a Battlefield game. Someone else wants to have a crack at it, mate. Absolutely. DICE, I think, have become a company that think they're too big to fail, and I think they need to fail a little bit because we have them making Battlefield, them making Star Wars games. They've got an entire division specifically for the building, maintaining, and supporting of Frostbite, which EA are pushing to every company. So their focus isn't necessarily all on the gaming.
Yeah,
and
that's a good point.
I think we need a company, whether they are forced to use Frostbite or not. I think that's immaterial. I would love to have another company have a crack at just making a really good feeling shooter. You don't have to call it Battlefield. Battlefield has a prestige about it.
Yeah, it's got brand recognition like Call of Duty, right? So
yeah,
to create a Battlefield-esque shooter and not use Battlefield seems a little bit unintuitive and shooting yourself in the foot, right?
But at the same time, to water down the Battlefield name by handing out crap, I think is worse than making a game that's really good and not calling it Battlefield.
Okay. That's an interesting point. Like, I would be more than happy to see Respawn, given that they are effectively the original Infinity Ward guys, go back into doing a modern shooter, so effectively Modern Warfare, but under EA's label.
Well,
and really give Call of Duty, a real competition.
I think they could. I think they'd know how to, and because you go back further. So Respawn are the guys from Infinity Ward. Well, Infinity Ward, them two, Vince Zampella.
Yep.
And I've forgotten the other guy's name.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. They're the original Medal of Honor.
They're the original Medal of Honor.
Yep.
You can't ask for a better pedigree for a developer, in my opinion. And you've only got to look at just how good Titanfall 2 is. Again, it's a short campaign, but it's a sharp campaign. It's
sensational.
It's one of the best shooter campaigns I think we've had. Maybe this generation. That might be a big statement.
Well, the problem with Titanfall 2 is twofold, right? It came out sandwiched in between Call of
God,
Duty and Battlefield that year.
yeah.
So
It
dead
was
on
it was
arrival.
put out to die.
Yeah, and it came out the same year as Doom,
Yeah,
which won everything as far as first person shooters go, right? So you have this sensational single player first person shooter that any other year people would have been raving about, and it surely would have done a lot better. There was just under too much competition. The timing couldn't have been more tragic for
no,
Titanfall 2. But it's such a great game. And it was my only second to Doom 2016 and my game of the year for that year.
yeah. I think it was mine as well.
It was
I think
sensational.
yeah, I think me and John. I think it might have been John's game of the year that year. I think we both agreed just how good it was, and it was good to see it. I hate using this phrase. It was good to see it signal boosted a bit because
Hmm.
everybody that played it fucking loved it, and everybody that played it told everybody else they know that plays games to go and play it. And I think it done okay. It just criminally was put out to die between Call of Duty and Battlefield. And
Yes. There's still not enough people who've played it.
oh no,
And
God
you
no.
can get it for like 6, 7 quid like on disc, never mind digital.
Yeah,
So I would hardly recommend it to anyone. But the point that we're overemphasizing here is that the respawn guys can do amazing things when they're given backing and a decent schedule to do it in, and a
yeah,
window of release that is going to give the game the best chance of
yeah,
succeeding. And if they did a Battlefield game, I would be over the moon because it would be good competition within the shooter genre of the industry.
yeah,
And it would also be good competition for DICE to get their head out their arse, stop being overly political about everything, and actually deliver a fun gaming experience, which I haven't done for as long as I can remember now.
no, no. It has been a while, and Dice being dragged out to do a million other games. They were helping make Need for Speed games at one point. There's no need for a company to be pulled in that many directions because when you do, your quality suffers.
Yeah, they should be focusing 100% on Battlefield games
Yeah,
in
uh,
order to succeed.
yeah. I would like to see another good Dice game. I would like to see a good Battlefield game. If that's from the guys at Respawn, I would not complain. I'd stand behind them and cheer them on all the way. Uh, we can but hope, mate. We
We can indeed.
I don't know what else we have at E3 now. So we have Devolver. The Devolver Digital show is always fun.
Yes, absolutely.
Uh, Always show a couple of fun games and spend an hour taking the piss out of people. You have the PC show, which is always fucking boring. And it is terrible. Have you watched any of the PC gaming shows?
Purely because I don't have a gaming PC, I don't watch them as intently as I do the console stuff. But as I say, if I've got the time, I'll sit down and watch anything and try and get hyped up about them. But it's not on the top of my list of priorities.
If it's on in the middle of the night, that's the time to go get some kip. If you're
Yeah,
if you're
right.
planning on, yeah, it's a
You can always
terrible.
watch it on YouTube the following day.
Exactly. But I think that's it, isn't it? I don't think I've forgotten anybody.
No, I
Nintendo
think
will
you've covered the main stuff. I think
Nintendo
beyond
will
what
have a
we
direct at some
talked
point,
about there, yes,
but
we've got
because
no Reggie, of course, so that'll be shit.
that will be a shame. I think it will be, even as a not really Nintendo fan, I think it will be a shame to have Nintendo do an E3 thing and not have Reggie, because much like Phil, he was a fucking character.
He was, and he's so memeable.
Yeah, he was a real personality, someone that clearly enjoyed their job, and we were allowed to enjoy his job through him. I don't know if a guy called Bowser is gonna
Hmm.
gonna, gonna be able to do that for us. Let's be honest.
If he doesn't come out in a Bowser
He,
costume, I'm not interested.
no, no, I think he has to own that from day one. If he doesn't, I don't think he survives for very long.
They've got to play through it, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
such a wonderful happenstance that you simply must go there.
So I tell you what, then, mate. What would be the dream thing for you to see? A big surprise, not anything we've talked about earlier. A big surprise that turned up at E3 that made you go, "Whoa! I need to hand out money now."
Oh God, you put me on the spot now, haven't you? Hmm. I don't know. I'm entirely open to possibilities. There's not one thing that I don't already know about that I can think of that make me get super excited. Yeah, there's a certain few things that I'm always very focused on. And this year, it's all about next gen console. I need to know which side of that coin I'm going to land on. I need my Doom Eternal. I want to know more about Cyberpunk, and I would like to see some Resident Evil 3. If I got all of those, that would be like a dream E3 for me. But I think the key for me is coming out of this E3 knowing which console I'm going to go for, if I go for a console at all this time.
Yeah.
Or am I going to build a PC by the end of the year? Clarity on that would be ideal.
Yeah, so you can start planning the space you need for a PC.
Oh, I've got the space. It's not a problem, but it's just like if I'm planning ahead to get into a gaming PC mindset for games that are coming out in a few months' time, I need to fucking start practicing now because my mouse and keyboard skills would be awful compared to what they were 10 years ago when I was playing a lot of online PC games.
Yeah, it's a pain I feel as well. I'm absolutely with you.
This amazing new game, whatever it happens to be, whether it's Doom Eternal or something else, come out and I can't play it the way I want to play it. I need to fine tune myself. So the earlier they can let me know where I'm likely to be playing my games for the next generation, the better.
Yeah. Cool. I think that kind of kills all our E3. Wraps up our E3 discussions, mate. I don't think there's anything else to. Unless there's anything else you want to talk about.
No. I think we've covered all the good stuff there. So we can move on to the next thing if you like.
Are you a take time off of work to watch E3 kind of person?
No. But I'm more than happy to stay up super late and watch it and go to work completely zombified, to be honest. I don't feel the need to take time off. I'll find a way.
Yeah. The past few years I've taken time off. I quite like it. It's an excuse in the middle of the year to just take a few days off work, watch some game stuff, then everyone goes to work and I get to play some games in peace and quiet during the day. This year I got too much on, so I'm not burning annual leave to take time off. But this year we're not covering E3 for the podcast.
Your daily updates that you did last year, yeah?
Well, yeah, so the last 2 years we've done a podcast for each show. And I'll be honest with you, mate, it's a fucking ball ache. It's fun, and I love doing it, but the pressure to get everything recorded and edited and out in time for the next one, and it's pressure from nobody but myself, but the pressure is still there, and it's a struggle, and I have spent the last couple of months struggling to get excited for E3. I am excited for it now that it's next week. But I kind of sat there and thought, if I'm going to get to halfway through E3 and lose all my excitement, I don't want to then be stuck at 3 o'clock in the morning editing a podcast for it.
No, it can be a thankless task at times. I'm sure your audience are going to be more happy for an E3 roundup show after the fact.
Yeah, a couple of weeks' time. So, and the thing, obviously, with E3 now is that E3 is the shows for the first 2 days, and then E3 starts, and then we get all the news. So actually, by the next podcast recording, there will be loads to talk about that isn't just from the shows. So
exactly.
Hopefully we have a nice, fun-filled, fun-packed episode to come up. I'm
sure you will.
I hope so. It should be a laugh. I'm looking forward to that more than I'm looking forward to the idea of staying up late to watch the shows. Did we want to do a bit of what we've been playing, mate, to kind of finish us off for the evening?
Yes and no.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because largely, and up until you invited me to come on to this week's episode, I haven't been playing much. I kind of find myself in a bit of a funk at the moment, whereby there's nothing going on right now that's compelling. I kind of over-invested myself into Black Ops 4, the Blackout mode.
Yep.
And that came out at the end of last year, because I'm really keen to get into Battle Royale. And I was hoping that was the one for me because it runs quite well on console compared to something like PUBG.
Yeah.
But it's so tedious and cartoony. It's such an odd game. I just don't get on with it as much as I would like to. And I've invested a lot of hours into that. But it was more out of habit than desire to play it. if
Okay.
anything. You know when you come in from work and you just stick your Xbox on, and you start playing something,
Yeah.
and most of the time it's a joy, but sometimes you know you're just doing it because you've got nothing else to do, and that's where I was kind of getting with Blackout. So I kind of abandoned that, and then I haven't been playing much at all the last couple of months. I've been more busy doing my buying and selling of retro games
Yeah.
that I do on Facebook and eBay and stuff, and that's been keeping me very busy. So a combination of no motivation to play plus not having as much free time. But because you asked me to come on here and I had some time off this week, I decided I was going to revisit PUBG because
Okay.
I abandoned that game very early on after its release because the performance was shocking.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a game that's particularly designed for consoles in general. It's certainly not as optimized as its PC uh, sister game.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, time has passed; it must be better. So I thought I'll play it. And I like watching, really good players stream PUBG. I think it's quite compelling to watch. So it's like, yeah, I'd really like to, because if I had a gaming PC, I'd be probably playing PUBG
Okay.
as my main game. So I thought I'll dip back into PUBG on Xbox One X, and it's a lot better than what it was. So I applaud them for that.
Yeah.
But it's so clunky compared to the PC game. I don't understand how anyone can play it with a degree of skill because it feels like you're running in mud all the time. It's so slow and your character movement's so unagile, and it's very unforgiving as well if you're a new player because you can get shot from such long distances and people are hiding as per the name of the game. That's the correct strategy, and not just people running around corners trying to shoot each other like in Call of Duty.
Yeah.
It's quite a stealthy game, and you can get pepped off from all sorts of places at any given time, and you don't even get a kill cam, so it's very difficult to learn what you're doing wrong
Yeah.
a lot of the time. Like, where was that guy who shot me? I have no fucking idea.
Yeah.
So between the ropey performance, the lethargic controls, and the unforgiving learning curve, I just can't get on with it. It's just like I'm just frustrating myself knowing that this is an inferior version of how it's meant to be played on PC. So I played that for about 3 or 4 hours, and I'm just like, no, this is masochistic at best. Playing this, so I jumped out of PUBG. It's not suitable for this generation of consoles. Maybe when the new ones come out and you can go back and play it on the next Xbox or PS5, it'll run like it does on PC. I doubt it, but it'd be nice to see. So,
Would you play it on the next gen of consoles though? Would you really spend that kind of money on a new console to play PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds?
I wouldn't buy a console purely to play Battlegrounds, but I must admit, one of the most motivating factors to getting my One X was that it would surely play Battlegrounds a lot better than the
Yeah.
One S, and it doesn't really.
No.
So I fucked up there massively. But I wouldn't buy a new generation of console to play PUBG, purely to play PUBG.
Yeah.
If PUBG is what I want to be doing, I would buy a PC. So
Fair
I'm not
enough.
going to let that be the deciding argument of where I'm going to be gaming next generation. But it's just a bad game on the current gen, unfortunately. Especially when you can see how well something like Apex Legends runs on console. It's just when you put it in the hands of a capable developer, it would be such a much better game. But it's designed poorly to run on very beefy machines that can brute force its way through the bad programming.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work on this gen. So I gave it another chance. It didn't work out, so I've abandoned PUBG. So what I did spend a bit of time doing today was playing a digital game that I bought on a recent Xbox market sale. I don't know if you saw that a week or two ago. They had a lot of discounted backwards compatibility games.
I did, yeah.
I picked up, because I like my retro games, Midway Arcade Origins.
Okay, yeah.
And that was 15 quid, which I think, before the sale, that is £15 normal shelf price, which I think's an absolutely diabolically high price to play for a bunch of very small old retro games.
Yeah.
But it was down to £3.75, and it has a few games on there I'm particularly fond of. So I picked that up, and My rationale for doing that as opposed to playing it on an emulator is because I thought there's a few twin stick shooters that I like on there, like Robotron and Smash TV.
Yeah.
And I thought that's surely going to work quite well on an Xbox One controller with twin sticks.
Yeah.
And it doesn't because it's analog control, not digital. I mean, it's playable and it's fun still, so that's cool. But it's too oversensitive and imprecise because they're so manic, these games. You've got so many enemies on screen coming at you in the action so fast that if you just overcommit ever so slightly with the analog stick, it's certain death every time.
Yeah.
So I would be impressed if anyone's ever ran up a close to world record Robotron score using analog twin sticks, because that's fucking it, man.
Yeah.
But I did have a lot of fun with it, and they play really well apart from the oversensitivity of the sticks. They run really nice, and I don't know if you've played Robotron in recent years.
Recent years, no.
No, but it's such a pure gaming experience. It's just super intense, fast action, super simple gameplay. You're just using one stick to move your character around and the other stick to direct which way you're shooting. The sound, the light, the colours. It's something you'd like to play, on some good shit, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. And it's such a simple game, but it's timeless. And that's what all the best retro games are. They don't have to look super nice. Clean, updated graphics. The gameplay is so pure that it'll work forever.
Yeah.
It'll never ever get old. And then Smash TV is just a slightly more modernised version of Robotron with a bit more of a game show, Running Man aesthetic, which is really cool. So I had a lot of fun playing those for a few hours today. I just wish I had a digital twin stick to use with it. It would be perfect. But you can't get everything for £3.75.
No, you can't. For £3.75.
It was nice. And I don't buy many digital games, but I was like, I'd like to play that as a means of convenience to play those twin stick shooters. And there's other stuff on there like your Defender and Off-Road and stuff that Midway have put out in the past. It's a good compilation, but I certainly wouldn't pay £15 for it. But at £3.75, that was an easy win.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So what have you been playing?
So, like I said, I've been playing the technical test for Ghost Recon Breakpoint. That didn't impress me at all. It is falling into live services and always online, and it basically is the Division with a Ghost Recon story / skin. It's frustrating. I wasn't a fan. Assuming Ubisoft don't remove my access from further tests because I'm talking about it on a podcast and I've signed a NDA for it. Yeah, I hope it gets better. There was obviously, it came with a big survey that you have to fill in and tell them what you thought, what you didn't like, what you liked, all that kind of shit. I'm hoping things get fixed and changed, and hopefully enough people complain about it. But there's a technical test forum for this thing, and you go on there, and it's just filled with people bitching and moaning. Well, if you actually give these people constructive information, they might be able to help you. But you just telling people that you don't like seeing level numbers when you look through binoculars is not helpful information for anybody. Literally, it was full of people going, it just looks like the Division. We know this. Tell them why.
Yeah, there must be a lot of noise to sift through when you're trying to get compelling feedback for a beta test on.
Yeah, I do
when you
not
invite the general public in, weird shit can happen, right?
Yeah, I don't envy these people having to read through those forums and try and find anything useful or interesting. That aside, I've been trying for months to get Ghost Recon Wildlands finished. I finally finished it, and I was quite happy to get that done and uninstalled. And then I started Rage 2.
Oh, yes.
Have you played Rage 2?
No, and it was a game that I had pre-ordered a very long time ago.
Yeah.
And there's a funny story with this, is as it was nearing release date, I was getting a little bit excited about it. I thought it's basically going to be Doom and Mad Max, and it's going to be awesome. And I went into my game store the day before launch, to inquire how much the collector's edition was going to be because I knew I'd pre-ordered that because if I did that, I could just downgrade the pre-order to a normal one if I didn't like the look of it.
Yeah.
And I saw the thing, I was like, oh, I don't know, it looks kind of cool. And then I asked how much it was. It's like 125. I was like, fuck me. But I was like, is there any chance I can buy it today? He's like, no, you can't, I'm afraid. So I would have, if they'd let me, I would have paid 125 quid for it there and then.
Yeah.
I was in the mood. And then within the 24-hour period of that day passing and then it coming out, I'd read the reviews and it didn't review particularly amazingly. I was just like, I just lost all sense of hype, and I haven't bought it in any form.
That you probably haven't done yourself much of a disservice there. I'm enjoying Rage 2 when it's being a shooter. When it's being an open world Mad Max game, I'm just bored.
Yeah, see, that's not good enough.
No, it's not. When you get into a fight, when you walk into an outpost or a something you've got to clear out, and you're surrounded by enemies, and you just feel like a complete fucking badass as you run around and blow heads off and kill everything. It feels like Doom, and this is
Which is great.
Which is great. Did you play the first Rage?
No.
Right. The first Rage, the shooting is amazing. Everything else is shit. It's one of the worst games I've ever played if you take away the shooting.
So all the driving stuff and
driving sucks. The driving combat sucks. The exploration's crap. The open world and the RPG-esque side quests all garbage. The story for Rage doesn't actually kick in until hour 20 as you're doing the final mission. And I'm kind of getting that feeling with this one as well. I'm not feeling it. I'm going to try and finish it because I'm a child of Doom. I kind of feel I need
for punishment, mate.
I need to play id games. I need to give id the respect to at least finish their game. I don't know why I feel I need to after playing the first Rage.
It's not really an id game, is it? Isn't this by Avalanche who did Mad Max?
Nice.
Or am I just making that up?
It's id and Avalanche.
I bet it's more Avalanche.
It does feel. It feels like id have told them how to do the shooting, and everything else is Avalanche. And that's kind of how the first Rage felt. It felt like id were doing the shooting, but a third party was doing the rest of the game.
I wonder if the additional content releases that are forthcoming will save it in that respect and be more focused down on gunplay.
Yeah. See,
not maybe the extra bollocks.
When you're running around, and especially on like the indoorsy bits, when you're corridored and it feels like you're playing Doom 2016, it's phenomenal. The shooting is great and it's fluid, it's fast, and you feel like a complete badass. And then you try and open a box and it doesn't allow you. You've got a supply crate to open, and it doesn't matter how many times you try to melee it, it won't break. You have to go off and shoot it because for some reason melee doesn't work. And this is completely random because one box it'll work and the other one it won't. And I don't think this is on purpose. It feels like a bug. It feels like it's simply not working properly. And for meleeing a box not to work, to not be working properly, is pretty unacceptable in a AAA game from one of the biggest publishers in the world. It's not really acceptable at all. I think my experience with Rage 2 so far is the same as most reviews you'll read. Shooting's great, rest of it average at best. Glad I rented it, I'll be honest.
Yeah, it sounds like a rent me game, or buy it when it's super cheap, which I'm sure it will be before too long. Because
it won't be long before it's cheap.
By the time the end of the year, big caliber games come out, no one's going to be interested in Rage, so you probably get it for 20 quid, if that. It's one of those. Actually, it's one of those ones that'll be a perfect purchase for Black Friday.
Oh yeah, for sure. When you can pick it up for a tenner on Black Friday, you'll get your tenner's worth out of it, no doubt.
Yeah.
Just.
I'd be pretty pissed off if I'd bought that collector's edition for 125 quid
And
though.
I would be pissed if I bought 125 quid's worth of Rage and it turned out to be that.
I mean, I like a nice big collector's box and everything. I've got a couple of the Doom 2016 ones,
Yeah.
but I got them very cheap. If I'd bought this one and then it turned out to be a bit of a kipper, I'd be very upset with myself. So
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't, and it's all because they wouldn't sell it to me ahead of time.
Yeah, you saved yourself a bit there, mate, I think.
I
Saved yourself
did.
a lot of personal heartache, I think.
Yes.
But yeah, I've because mainly because I flatly refuse to go on about more Ghost Recon because I've talked about it for weeks on end now as I struggle to finish this game that again I should love, wanted to love, and just struggled to get through. I'm not talking about Ghost Recon anymore. I'm done with it. That's all the games I've been playing, mate.
Cool. Okay, so it sounds like we've both got much we need to sort of fill our time with from hopefully stuff that comes out at E3 this
Yeah.
weekend. And
Here's hoping E3 come Monday night. I'm sitting jacked up about what's coming out with Xbox in the next 6 to 8 months. That's what
yeah,
I'm hoping.
that's the best we can hope for, right? And fingers
Yeah,
crossed we've got loads to talk about on the show next time.
absolutely. So I tell you what, mate. As is tradition, do you have a recommendation for anybody listening?
It's a
Anything?
kind of half-hearted recommendation because it's not something I've played myself yet, but I've
Okay.
enjoyed watching some footage on it. And there's a game that's come out in the last week or two called Void Bastards.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with that. It looks aesthetically cell shaded. God, I can't put my teeth back in. Cell shaded in the style of Borderlands, but gameplay a bit more like Bioshock or System Shock if you're familiar with those games.
Yeah.
And that's on Xbox Game Pass now. You can buy it quite cheap exclusively from that or get it on Game Pass. And it just looks really, really cool. If you're a bit confused as to what the hell I'm talking about, check it out on Twitch or YouTube. It just looks very, very cool and worth checking out. So first person with a bit of strategy, looks a little bit unique, and you can get it very cheap.
Nice. Well, I will recommend hitting or on Games for Gold at the moment, and it will be until next Friday, I think. Uh, Backwards compatible Portal.
Oh, I love Portal. That's a
I
fantastic show.
Portal is an amazing game. I will caveat that by saying I've completed Portal several times. It is nigh on impossible to complete on console because that the final or second to last room that you need to get out of requires far too much dexterity that you just don't get with a fucking controller. Uh, but it's a good shout either way, and it's a great game, and you'll finish it in like 2 hours. You know, this is not a game that's gonna take all of your time up, but it is a game that if you haven't played it, everybody should.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a must play. And if you get it for free, well,
I say it's the best
there
price,
you
isn't it?
go. Yeah.
Uh, so I think that wraps us up, mate. So until the next time we get you on, where can people find you, buddy?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at LamboMath. That's with one T. If you like hearing me talk about innate ramblings about retro gaming and probably some stuff that comes out on E3 this weekend. Or you can find me at the RGDS podcast. That's a retro gaming discussion show on iTunes if you like hearing people talk about good old games.
Yeah, man. We've talked about RGDS a couple of times that I love listening to, especially when you were on. You and other Matt, I always love listening to.
Yeah, we are the Brooker and John of retro gaming. We like
Yeah,
to refer to ourselves as.
we aspire to be anywhere close to as good as you two are. But yeah, we well, John maybe not so. John doesn't listen to many podcasts, but I do. I do make a point. I listen to RGDS a lot anyway, but when you guys come on, I make a point of putting that on my next to playlist because you're always great to listen to.
Oh, nice one. Thanks a lot, mate.
No, you're very welcome. I don't get time to listen to many podcasts, but you know there are a few that you have to make time for, and you guys for sure. As for me, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Brook411, and you can find us, the podcast, everywhere. So Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Character Unlock. That's us wrapped up. I think the only thing left for me to say again, dude, thanks so much for coming on.
That's my pleasure, mate. Anytime I can help you out.
I love having you on the podcast. You're always a pleasure to chat to. And since we don't have a Fail Critics anymore, we don't get to do this as often as we used to. So, yeah, it's always good to have you on and shoot the shit for a couple of hours.
Well, you're the only person I generally talk to about current gen games, so yeah, it's always a pleasure, mate. And thanks for having me on again. I really appreciate it. And I hope everyone listening to the show has a cracking E3 and you all get a little slice of whatever it is you're after.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. So, yeah, so this comes out Friday. E3 starts technically, I suppose, Sunday night. Yeah, it's going to be a good weekend, mate. So,
It should be. Fingers
yeah.
crossed.
So until the next episode, thank you everyone for listening, and yeah, we'll be back in a couple of weeks.